Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we're going to do a tier list for the One Piece card game, specifically the first set meta for Romance Dawn. We do have the star decks, we do have some of the leaders, we also have a single promo leader, which honestly I haven't seen a lot of usage, especially since I think it just came out in Japan, but I do want to just kind of go over this. It is going to be a minute till it gets out into the American meta, but I've been playing a lot of this on tabletop and on my streams and everything else, so I'm just really excited for this card game, and I want to just kind of do a tier list going over my expectations for this, and just based on how I've seen some tournament results over in Asia and just my thoughts for a lot of these guys. So we're just going to start off with the Zoro leader. He's just a red leader who gives a kind of passive buff of plus 1k to all your guys for the cost of 1 Dawn underneath him. And I've said this before, he's boring, but he's very, very good. I think I'm going to put him in competitive. I think he is a very strong leader for what he is, and he can put a lot of effort, especially if you're able to go kind of wide on the board with a bunch of things. It just means like all of your like 1-drops and 2-drops can actually start doing damage, which is pretty scary, and especially in a game where you only have 5 or 4 life depending on which leader you're doing. So I could even see Zoro going up to highly competitive, but I think he's definitely competitive at the very least. He's got a lot of just staying power, and he's just very aggressive, even though it's boring, but it does the job. So I think he's very good. Next up, we do have Trafalgar Law. And when I first saw this leader, I did not think he was going to be very good, especially since kind of how this game works and like the fact that there's very little card draw. It'd be very tricky to get 5 cards out at once. But if you get to do it, you are just winning the game a lot of the time. You get so much value, especially since there are some cards that on play do let you draw cards. So being able to recycle that ability in a game like this with not a lot of card draw is quite nice. I think I'm going to put him highly competitive. He might be just down in competitive, but I think highly competitive is the place to put him. And I'll do like a rehash at the end, but I think he kind of just deserves to be there. Next up, we do have the Luffy leader, the red green. It's also the leader that you guys are probably most familiar with over here in the States if you've done any of the demo events, because it's the leader that comes with it. And I think I'm going to put him in like highly playable. I like what he does, and the kind of the idea of doing a restand on something is very good, especially attached to a leader effect. However, just the fact that he's a multicolor leader, which is good and bad, I just don't think like there's a lot that you gain from having the 2 colors for. And honestly, we're going to talk about it later, but I think Eustass Kid is just what this leader is, but better, and just going mono green and having 1 more life is 100% more worth it. So I think Luffy is fine. I think he has a lot of fun things, and I just don't think like there's just better. He's like the worst of the red and green leaders, which is saying a lot, because there's just so many red green leaders that are, I think, super good right now. So I think I'm just going to leave him highly playable. There are some fun things you can do with him, but I don't think he's outrageously good. I mean, being able to get a dual attack on a guy can be fantastic. And as far as I know, one of the best ones is like the 2-drop Sanji, but you have to take a life for its effect, which means you also have to like go down from 4 life to 3 or something. And that's really kind of hurtful for, a low life leader like this one. So next up, we have this guy, and I don't know where I want to put him. I think probably the low end of competitive. I think he's got some really good stuff for him as well. Again, it's spoilers. I think green is just like the best color uniformly in this game. It has a lot of good things, and just the way that it can like board control your opponent very easily and get a bunch of just easy ways and cheap ways to get rid of cards, as well as like the Eustass Kid 8-drop is fantastically good, and everything else that goes with it. So getting an energy untap with this leader is fantastic. Or sorry, a dawn untap, but it does come at the cost of discarding 1 card, which is quite expensive a lot of the time. But being able to kind of use some card power, like cards in hand, is really interesting, because you always want a lot of cards in your hand on the defense side, but on the offense side, most of the time they really don't do anything. And that's a big contrast to Dragon Ball, where you can always combo from hand on attack or defense, but seeing it so you can only counter on defense in this game, sometimes you just have a bunch of cards in your hand and they're dead a lot of the time. So being able to have like a use to reuse your Dawn to even if it's just to untap 2 to get a plus 2k on something, I think that's fine for what it is. So I think competitive is where it stays, and green's in a good spot. Next up is the Don Quixote Doflamingo leader, and it is so good when this guy goes off. He gets a lot of passive value in this game, and there's just a lot of good things that kind of go with him. So I'm going to put him all the way in highly competitive pretty quickly. I think he's one of the better leaders in the game right now, and he's just got so much like strength with him. Like again, like he technically draws one, and when he draws one, you have to already be swinging with a 7k leader on something, which means your opponent has to put a lot of value into defending, and you get to play a card for free. So the card for free does come into rest mode, so that is something. And if your opponent is kind of smart enough to just keep swinging at the thing in rest mode and not attacking leader or giving you any card advantage, that is a way to kind of beat it at times. But right now, I think it's probably one of the stronger leaders in the game, and it's got a lot. I don't know. Playing a card for free is very good, and I think it's very strong. If it was like the opposite, where it's Dawn times 1, you have to pay 2, it would be probably mid tier. But I think Dawn times 2 with a cost of 1 on top of it. 7k swings are very good in this game. It means your opponent has to do like a super plus 2k counter and another one to get out of anything that's already a 5k. So next up, we do have the blue and purple Kaido. I don't really know. I think he's probably in competitive. He's got some really cool builds. I think by and large, I don't know which one is better. Both the multicolor and the regular color Kaido I think is fine. I'm going to put this one in competitive because I like it a little bit more. Just the fact that you can, like, I think when I first was building and looking at this leader, it was a case of, you know, I have to put in a lot of effort to, like, I have to use some event cards to pop your opponent's cards to get some effects from it. And that's kind of nice, but it's just like, you don't really have to do that. If your opponent swings at the guy and then they just leave it exposed, you can just pressure it next turn. It's going to be a 6k because you have to do down times 1 for the effect. And if that's the case, your opponent just like loses a card and then you get to ramp one, which is really nice, and just kind of go from there. So I really like that. And obviously I think blue and purple has a lot of good control cards that you're able to abuse, and I think this leader got a little bit better with the release of the film Starter Deck 2. So I really do like the idea of this leader, and I think it does I think it's very good. I think it's really good, especially with, again, the new purple stuff we get from the Shanks Star Deck really kind of propelled it to competitive in my mind, and there's just kind of a lot of power with it. So next up is the blue purple Crocodile, and I'm gonna playable. It's super good if it like hits your stuff, and I'm still gonna keep playing with this until I find a build that I really like. But right now, I think it's just, compared to everything else, it's very inconsistent. Sometimes you just don't get the card draw you need, and I mean, late game, if you're able to survive late game, you do really good. But you're also only a 4-life leader, which makes that a little bit trickier to do. And I don't know. I like this guy though. I think he's great. And he has a really good late game if you're able to get to it. But I think a lot of the time there's just so many aggressive decks that won't let you get there, and you won't get the full value of the Crocodile. So next up is King, and I'm gonna put him in the trash tier. I think he's just so bad. I don't know why you like this effect isn't great at all. Minus 1k on everything if you have 10 Dawn seems kind of nice, and I guess like you have some interaction, but like a lot of the guys that you like have on the board, like your opponent has, are just already going to be kind of weenies anyways. If it was like minus 1k to the leader as well, I could see this being somewhat good, but just with only characters for the King card, I'm not a big super duper fan for it. So it's probably the least, like the worst leader in the set right now, and which is a real shame because again, purple has a lot of cool cards with it, and but it also has the most leaders, so it's fine for it to have one stinky one. Next up, we do have the Uta, and this is a promo from the Japanese movie as well. And if you guys don't know what this card is, let me make sure. I'm gonna look at it right here on the side here. It has an effect of active main once per turn for 1. Add up to one of your characters that affects gains plus 2k power during this turn. And I think that's, I mean, the idea of it, I'm going to put it in playable. I don't think it's very good. It's newer, so I don't think people have tested out. But that's an active main for 1 to give something plus 2. Meanwhile, we have this Zoro here that is pretty much the same thing, but uniformly better. As long as you have 2 character cards out, they get the plus 1k each. That is essentially using 1 Dawn to give plus 2k across, plus 1k on 2 characters. So that's plus 2k on the board, which is good. And you also get to use that Dawn underneath the Zoro. So it's like for 1 Dawn, you get to give plus 3,000, right? So this Uta, I don't think is as good unless you have like a card that can attack twice in red, which I don't think there's anything inherently that does that, especially since it has to be something that's skillless. And so if you're doing something that's skillless and you're giving it plus 2k, I'd almost rather use the red-green Luffy leader to do that as well, because you get the restain and a plus 1k. It does cost a little bit more Dawn to do so, But I don't know. I don't think Ucha is really good. It does have the film tag, so maybe that is kind of important for something later. But for like a vanilla rush deck, I don't think, as far as I know, I don't think it's going to be very good. But I've been super wrong with this game, and we'll have to find out. But it immediately, in the same sense of Zoro, it seems very boring on the front side. But we'll see if that's any good. So next up, we do have the Luffy leader, and I probably just keep it in highly playable as well. It's a fun leader, and I think like a lot of people didn't think that this guy was going to be any good because just the fact that like the star deck for it wasn't fantastic, but being able to just double down on a lot of your Dawn does help you throughout the game, and there's some decks that kind of do that, so I think that is strong. I think Zoro is still by and large better than it as a red mono leader, but I could be persuaded in the comments if you guys want me to move this up to competitive. I totally do it, but I think Zoro by and large is still just better. It's just such a good blanket way to give plus the extra Dawn to everything. And again, so that you can use one Dawn and you can give 5 characters plus 1,000, where this is for 0 Dawn, you give something plus 1, which is fine. But Zoro, I think, scales a little bit better. So next up, we do have Eustass Kid, and I think this is the best leader in the game. And I think a lot of people are with me on that one. He is very, very good. Giving a leader dual attack in a game with summoning sickness, as well as a game where there's less life. Like, there's not even that many cards in Dragon Ball, at least leader wise, that have dual attack, and all of them have like these special effects and like these like negatives for it that it makes it not really worth it most of the time. And so to have this guy come out as a starter deck where it's so good. If you get to 0 life, you better have like 2 blockers out, because otherwise the Eustass Kid is just going to have like 2 12k swings coming your way to try to end the game. So it's fantastic for ending the game. It has so much power, and yeah, especially like just the idea you can put 7 Dawn underneath the Eustass Kid, it becomes a 12k, swing with it, and then if they get out of it, block it, whatever, you can just play 3 Dawn, discard a card, and have it swing as a 12k again. It's so good. It's such a good card, and I think I don't know. We'll see if anything changes with it. I could see it maybe being like more expensive or something. I doubt they'll change something outright with it, but I think by and large people will agree this is probably the best leader in the game, especially since there are so many good green cards to really capitalize on just how good this guy is. So next up, we do have the Crocodile, and I think he's highly playable. I don't really see a lot of people playing him anymore. I think most people who want to play mono blue will just go to Dofi because it's just generically better with the amount of just like the amount of free value you get from it. So I do like the Crocodile. I do think like its effect is a little bit boring, but bouncing back to hand for technically free is quite nice. And I might go back and try. I haven't been interested to playing because I played him so much in the star deck meta. I wanted to try like the blue purple Kaido and everything else that I just never really came back to him. So I think he's fine. I think he's got some good stuff, and we'll kind of go from there. Next up, we do have the mono purple Kaido leader, and I don't know. I don't know where to put him in between competitive and highly playable. I think he's got some good merits. Generically, like I think he's the best generic purple leader that we have. I'm going to put him like the top of highly playable. Now maybe rearrange these lists a little bit. I think the blue purple one's just a little bit better because sometimes like you just never use the -7 because the timing for it never works, especially since with this game you have to get down to 0 life and then swing one more time. If you get your opponent to 0, just like your effect is nothing anymore, and they can just kind of block and defend and kind of everything else. So I do like the guy though. I do think it's good. It's better than King. I think like the potential to do -7 to crit a life is better than just giving -1k to characters. But I think I like the guy, and I think he's good. I think the blue purple one is slightly better, even though you have 1 less life. This is such a big control list. It's very easy to protect your life, and it's very easy to ramp and get into your big boys with this. I think I like the blue purple a little bit better. So, and then lastly we have Shanks, and Shanks is just okay. I'm not a big fan of him either. I think like the best thing about the Shanks list is the other cards that come in it and not necessarily him. But if you guys haven't seen this guy yet either, it's active main Dawn. Once per turn, Dawn -3. Your film type characters get +2k power during this turn. So it's only film, so it's not even himself, which kind of stinks. And we do get some good film type characters in this set, but -3 for +2 is not great in my opinion. It is a free buff to some dudes, and maybe some people will make some decks that just make it better, but Film is also just kind of like not a very well established archetype right now. I mean, it's his entire deck, but even so, there's not like a lot of big hit. A lot of the big boys are already like 8Ks and everything, so the plus 2K boost is kind of just a win more effect in a lot of ways. So I think it's fine. I think if they're just more like better like mid-range film cards, I could see this effect going off and being like a mid-range aggro deck. But for what it is right now, I haven't seen anything really impressive with it. But I could just be looking in the wrong areas, and you guys could let me know. But that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this tier list. Is there anything I want to do to change the order for any of these? No, I think this is maybe this. Bam! Wow, what a change. I think Kaido, like these two could be switched or be like in the others. I think that's fine. And I think Luffy in general is just like a good like way to learn how to play the game, and then kind of just going down from there. I really want this Crocodile to work. Maybe I'll find a way and I'll move it up a couple, but currently it's just an okay deck. So that's going to be it for me though. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys did appreciate this video. Let me know what I got right, what I got wrong, and what you guys are looking forward to in this card game. But again, that's going to be it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.